Hey, so Frosty, thanks for joining. I'm just doing my studio work today. This is a silicon rubber mold and I'm casting concrete in it. It's going to be this. It's going to be this sculpture, concrete. Hello, welcome. Welcome to my sculpture studio. I'm casting concrete today. This is my silicon rubber mold and at the moment I'm casting this sculpture right here. But I have very soupy concrete, so it's taken a while to firm up. Might have to remix it, add a little powder to it. We'll see. I'll let it sit for a minute. Hi, Honeybee Bazaar. This is my sculpture studio, and I'm casting concrete sculptures in silicon rubber molds today. This mold, this is a one-piece mold for this sculpture right here. I have to make a lot of these this week because it's doing pretty well at galleries. So they keep asking for more. I never sold one at my whatnot shop. I think the price is just too high. That's okay. Hey, welcome aboard. This is my home sculpture studio in my backyard, and I'm casting concrete in this rubber mold to make this concrete sculpture, which I will later paint, lacquer, and polish and sell. Put too much water in the concrete, so it's taken a while to solidify, but instead of remixing it, I'm just going to give it a little more time than usual. So my exciting show for the moment consists of watching concrete solidify. It's like watching paint dry. But if you're a crafter, you get it, I think. All right, I think we've got a good surface layer, a good coating, and good coverage of the whole inside of the mold. So now I want that to solidify until it's about leather hard. And then I'll put another layer on top of it inside the mold to strengthen it a little bit. Right now it's just, if I let this harden up, I would have a sculpture like this, but it would just be eggshell thin and too delicate. So I need a couple more layers. The reason I don't just dump concrete in here and flatten it off and leave it at that, which would be very simple, is that I've got to carry these things to my market in Vancouver, Washington, and I need them to be hollow and light. So I cast everything hollow. It's a little trickier, but it works. Now, while that is solidifying, let me just walk you around my little backyard studio here. I'm grabbing my phone. Hold on a second. So this is my work table, my concrete. That moon lady is a cast concrete copy of a clay sculpture I made several years ago. And this is my latest cast of it. It's very difficult to cast hollow, but let's look at the bottom and I'll show you without knocking it over. I don't know. This is a little tricky to do with one hand. So it only weighs about less than 30 pounds, I think, at this point. I'll pour a little concrete in it to reinforce it some, but not so much that I can't lift it and carry it to my market. I sold one just about 2 weeks ago to a couple from New Zealand. I said, "How are you going to get this thing home?" It would cost almost the price of the sculpture to ship it. And they said, "It's going to be my personal item." They're going to carry it on their lap in the airplane. There's my Madonna. That's also cast concrete. And the only reason it's here instead of at my shop for sale is that I broke the fingers, so it's currently under repair. That's epoxy putty. These are odds and ends. I will make, they're partial casts of all kinds of vase molds that I've got. And I'll make just little wall hangings, keychains, and refrigerator magnets out of them by smoothing them, sanding them, painting them, lacquering them, and polishing them. These are some more cast concrete sculptures that I have yet to perfect and paint and lacquer and polish. And this is a copy of the one I'm casting today. Here's some more of that same one. There are 2 more casts of my Moon Lady in various stages of completion. This one here's got some work to go. That's what happens when the concrete gets too thin. More raw concrete. Oh, waiting for me to work on it. This is my mermaid. Angel taking a cigarette break. We'll talk about her later. Okay, back to the solidifying concrete. Let's see how it's doing. Feel free to say hello or comment or ask anything you want, and I'll try to answer verbally. I can see the messages here on my screen. That's ready. It's a little bit dry and about the hardness of leather. It's still flexible enough that it can move a little bit and be disturbed a little bit without cracking. So let's put some more relatively wet concrete into it, and this will be something like slip casting. And if you want to see my finished work, just go. Can you see this? Yeah. ClayBraven.etsy.com. That's where my finished sculptures are. You don't have to buy anything if you don't want to. Just look around. It's my only real online gallery. Thanks, Honeybee Bazaar. I appreciate the encouraging word. I did Whatnot for a couple of weeks in the early summer, but I thought I could do better at YouTube, so I went over to YouTube for a while, but that kind of petered out. I don't spend a lot of time trying to maximize my viewership, so I kind of like Whatnot because there are a lot of artists and crafters here. Hi, Likar. I'm making concrete casts of clay sculptures. So about 2 years ago, I made a clay, water-based pottery clay sculpture that looks like this. Then I made this silicone rubber mold on that sculpture. And now I'm taking concrete, just sidewalk cement from Home Depot, and I'm casting copies of that sculpture so that I can sell them at the, usually at the, I used to go to the Portland Saturday Market in Portland, Oregon, where I live. Now I go to the Vancouver Farmers Market in Vancouver, Washington, right across the Columbia River from Portland. And I sell them at Etsy right here, ClayBraven.etsy.com. I have them listed up at Whatnot, but nobody ever buys them at Whatnot. But I enjoy sometimes posting at Whatnot, making videos. Well, thanks. Yeah, it's my labor of love. Used to be a hobby, now it's my livelihood. We'll see if AI can take this job over. I used to be a translator. I was a document translator for about 30 years. It was great. I loved it. It was like doing crossword puzzles all day. And sort of a quasi-intellectual, semi-academic, advisory type work. But AI seems to be able to do about 60% of the work. There's a certain human element that only a person can do, but that's a smaller market. And I like doing this. This is getting ready. I put a second layer of concrete in there, so it's going to be a little stronger. And the key to making a really good, flawless concrete cast is that's delicate but strong, hollow and light, but strong enough that it'll just last forever. The key to that is patience when you're casting. The wet concrete, before it becomes as hard as or as soft as leather, when it's too fluid, if you dump more concrete in there, it's all just going to pull it away from the inside wall of the sculpture, and you're going to end up with a weak cast. So waiting is sometimes the most important thing. Just like in painting, the most difficult, hardest technique to learn, which takes decades to learn, is simply stopping, knowing when to stop adding on colors. It's a, you can learn the color wheel, you can learn color theory, you can watch Bob Ross videos and learn how to paint a picture in maybe 2 or 3 years. You can publicize your art in 2 or 3 years. But the only thing that takes decades to learn is stopping, knowing when to stop. That's been my experience. Hey everybody, thanks for joining. I'm just sitting here in my studio making concrete casts of original clay sculptures. This is as you can see, it's like a big cannonball shaped mold. It's made of silicone rubber, and I made it off of an original clay sculpture that was this shape. And what I'm doing today is casting concrete, just sidewalk cement from Home Depot, rapid set cement, and casting it to make this kind of concrete sculpture. Then after that, I paint them, lacquer them, and polish them and sell them. So I'm waiting for the concrete inside this mold to get strong enough to take one more layer in there. So there'll be like 3 coats of paint in there. Yep, that's it feels about as soft and about as hard and about as dry as leather. So now it's ready to take a little bit more concrete, and we'll move on to the next. So I need a flat surface. I'm going to get a little pottery bat to make a flat surface for the bottom of the sculpture. This is just called a bat, B-A-T, and it's what potters use to make the bottom of their teacups and bowls flat. And I use it for concrete. So this, I want this to be a little more fluid, so I can pour it in there in a process really similar to slip casting. The existing concrete that's now leather hard in here is going to suck all the water out of this, and it'll immediately stick to the inside wall. So it has to be quite fluid in order to get an even distribution around the inside. Otherwise, it'll all glom onto whatever area it touches first. It'll just stick, and you'll get a very lopsided center of gravity in the sculpture. So quite a bit of water until it has the fluidity of, the best description would be either like a shamrock shake that you left in the car windshield, under the car windshield for 5 minutes, kind of a melted milkshake, or if you're more gourmet oriented, vichyssoise. That's the consistency I'm looking for. Here's my vichyssoise. A little more. Just as much water as you can put into it without it being too soupy, or without the heavy quartz sand settling to the bottom on its own. Here we go. Let's pour it in. Before it sticks too much, I'm going to just slosh it around, get an even distribution. Nice third layer of concrete on the inside of the mold. It's going to be hollow but strong. Light but strong. It's flowing more and more slowly as it gets its moisture drawn out. It solidifies a little. Okay, now I'm just going to put it on the flat surface. And I tap it a little to get a little bit, just enough of the concrete to slump down to make a good flat surface on the bottom. I'm going to set that aside. Next we'll do this big sun face. First I have to wash this off. Okay. So we're casting concrete into silicone rubber molds today. And the next sculpture is going to be this one. That's what we're going to make next. And it's just concrete, sidewalk cement from Home Depot. I like paving concrete because it's weatherproof. It can freeze without cracking. That's really the key. So yeah, I don't have room for this. I'm going to set it over here. I've already prepared this mold by brushing silicone rubber on the inside. No, not silicone rubber. Crisco. I found that for concrete, you don't need really expensive lecithin sprays or silicone sprays or anything. You just need a little bit of vegetable shortening is good on the inside of the mold. That's all you need. This little copper wire for hanging. Let's do it. If there are any crafters out there who are curious about exactly what the heck I'm doing, feel free to ask. I can see the text comments on the screen right here. So if you ask something, I'll try to answer it verbally. The key to having a good concrete cast of a sculpture is to make sure there are no bubbles or voids that form between, just at the interface between the concrete fluid and when it's cast and the surface of the mold. So I just press the concrete into little crevices, which will be tips of the sun rays here. And one way that people solve that, they get the concrete to flow into every crevice, is to vibrate it by just hitting it. And I found that that's good. And another even better way is to get the concrete, the body of the concrete, to flow over the surface like that. So you'll see in a minute how I do that. Okay, I've got concrete worked into all these crevices here. Let's just clean off the edge of the mold. Get it to flow over the surface of the mold. And that gets rid of a lot of bubbles that would cause little pinholes in the surface of the finished cast sculpture. This is still a little too fluid to be trying to mess around with it, so I'm going to give it a minute. Whatever I do right now, it's just going to slump back down into the bottom until I've given it about 3 more minutes. Also, the slightest agitation will re-liquefy the concrete and make it slump back down. So I'm being gentle with it. I can already feel it gaining a little bit of firmness. Something closer, less like a milkshake and more like Jello pudding. That's what I'm aiming for. And once it's about as firm as Haagen-Dazs, not hard Haagen-Dazs, but Haagen-Dazs that's ready to eat, ice cream, like an ice cream cone ice cream, or soft ice cream, then it's time to start pushing it around gently with a spoon, because it'll stay where you put it. So I'm not trying to create a surface texture yet. I'm just trying to get the material generally where I want it without dragging it over the surface. At this point, if I drag it too hard over the surface, it'll start to open up little voids at the interface between the concrete and the silicone rubber surface of the mold. So got to be gentle right now. Stay. Okay. We'll give it just a minute and then start smoothing the surface and trying to get a good back surface on the sculpture. I'll show you the sculpture. This is what I'm casting. I also have another. This is what it looks like when it's just raw concrete pulled out of the mold. You can see the back. That's what I'm trying to do with the back. And this is what it looks like after the first stage of painting. The first stage of painting is just a contrast layer where I put in this case, very dark violet black calligraphy ink, and I India ink, and I rub it into the crevices and then wash it off. And that's going to go underneath the translucent watercolor paint that I put over that to tint it. So this is the boring, flat, raw concrete when it comes out of the mold. And this is the first stage of coloring. And I'll put some translucent yellows and oranges over that. And layer on watercolors and try to stop before I ruin it. Let's check the firmness. Yep, it's ready. It feels like leather, like shoe leather or rich Corinthian leather. Not too hard, not too soft. I'm going to end up with a lot of extra concrete here I'll have to do something with. Don't want to throw it away. I'm putting water in it here just because I don't want it to turn into a rock that I have to throw in the trash. Hi, Kraken the Ripper. Yeah, I do. I have a finished sculpture. Right now, I got to get busy here before this concrete hardens up too much. But I'll show it to you in just a sec. I don't have a completely finished one, but hey, check it out. Go here, ClayBraven.etsy.com, and you can see a finished one. You don't have to buy it, but it's my shop. But you can just check it out and see what my finished sculptures look like at ClayBraven.etsy.com. I don't know, only for people who are in the Vancouver area, but I live in Portland, Oregon, and I sell all these at the Vancouver Farmers Market in Vancouver, Washington. I let this get a little bit hard, so it's now it's like hard Haagen-Dazs. Still soft enough to manipulate if you reliquefy it with a little water on the surface, so it's not too bad. It's not going to be a disaster. I'm going to have a nice surface on the backing of the sculpture. Hi, Le Carl. Well, the funny thing is my yard is full of all my rejects. I sell all my good stuff, so I take it to and the good stuff that I sell at the farmer's market is all packed up into bins all week, wrapped up in blankets, so that I can take it back to the market the next week. So, and then I have a lot of sculptures that the cast turns out kind of neither here nor there. It's got big flaws that would. It's really ambiguous whether it would take too much time and effort to fix them or just to cast a new one. And I just put those all out in my front yard. So my front yard's full of rejects. It's like the island of lost toys. But I tell all the kids in the neighborhood, if you can see it on my lawn, you can take it and you can have it and take it home. So there are some kids in the neighborhood who collect my stuff. Some grown-ups too, who collect my rejects off of my yard. And sometimes I don't do it so much anymore, but I used to go around town and just at night put them up on telephone poles, and people would grab them from the telephone pole after a few weeks, take them home. So I think a lot of people have my telephone pole art, which are kind of, they're not, the cast didn't go quite well enough that I could sell it to people and ask their hard-earned money for it, but it's good enough that it looks really nice. I have a lot of things like that out in my yard. Yeah, I found I don't live in a particularly good area of town, but nobody steals things from my yard, so okay. Maybe my sculptures aren't that good. Okay, check this out. I was at the Portland Saturday Market about a year ago, and it's very hectic packing things up and shutting down my shop from on a Saturday night, preparing to open it, just shutting it down so I can come back in Sunday morning and start up again. And I forgot to take down 4 or 5 of my sculptures, and I left them out overnight in downtown Portland in a pretty bad area, and where people do steal things all the time. And I thought, oh no, somebody's going to grab my sculptures. I came back in the morning and my blankets were gone, but my sculptures were still there. I was like, hey, what am I, chopped liver? Come on, you don't want to steal my sculptures? The moving blankets that I wrapped the sculptures in were gone, but I figured, okay, you want a blanket, you can have a blanket. Those are easy to replace. But nobody stole my sculptures. Come on. Okay. This one's done, and I'm going to set it aside and resist the temptation to touch it or mess around with it. And just leave it till tomorrow. Well, here, I'll show you. In order to cure the concrete, I mean, most of you probably know this, but concrete does not harden up by drying like glue with a solvent that evaporates out of it. It's not like that. It's a chemical process that requires water. So I dampen it a little bit, and I cover it with a plastic bag to keep the moisture in the concrete overnight. And that's what's going to harden it up. If there are any chemists out there, you know what I'm talking about more than I do. it's a process called hydration. And I just lay a wet rag over it. It's good till tomorrow. And tomorrow I'll take it out of the mold. This one's the next. Okay, somebody asked. This is kind of the finished sculpture. It's not quite finished, but the cast is all finished and signed. And now I just have to. I've put on a layer of dark contrast color, and then I'm going to layer watercolors over that, and then lacquer over that with polyurethane lacquer, and then furniture polish it with buffing wax. It's going to look very sharp. I get $118 for that sun, by the way. Not bad for. Yes, exactly. So I can see the contrast layer under the watercolor. Do I have a finished one to show you? Hold on a second. This one's a little too saturated. I didn't restrain myself very well when I colored it. I put too much blue over the black, but you can kind of see that contrast layer underneath the blue color. And this one, it's got a chip on the top that I'm repairing, but you can see how it's got that black contrast layer underneath the watercolor, the translucent watercolor, violet and teal and amber. Makes a huge difference. Oh, hold on a second. I've got some more. These are some finished, really small ones that are finished and painted and all done. You can kind of see the drama that the contrast layer adds to them. Then I'm going to glue magnets on the back and make refrigerator magnets out of them. They sell. I usually charge about $28 each for these at the farmer's market, and they do okay. Oh, this half moon, you mean? Or this one? Oh, as a refrigerator magnet, I charge 28 for it, and as a whole moon with a little copper wire in the back for hanging, I charge usually 48, sometimes 58, just depending on how confident I am that day. If I set my alarm clock to play the theme from Rocky, it'll be $58. Okay. Now here, this is not enough concrete to cast this sculpture. But it's such good concrete, I don't want to waste it. I'm going to add some, I'm just going to remix, add some concrete, add some water, make a new batch. But I'm not going to wash out the bucket and throw this away. Is that going to be enough? It's probably too much, but let's do it. much water. I need to add some more concrete as well. Too much water. Hey there, thanks for joining. We're casting concrete sculptures. So I'm mixing concrete right now. It's just sidewalk cement from Home Depot, but I cast it in rubber molds, like this one. And then like, sculptures like this. Ignore the chip on the top. I'm repairing that. I've tried being scientific with how much water, exactly how much water and how much concrete to mix together and all that. But I've decided over time that the best way to do it is just experience and intuition. So that looks about right, about all I can say. And that's just about enough. It's hard to explain. Okay. I'm getting the concrete to flow over the inside of the mold just to get rid of as many bubbles and flaws as I can and get a perfect interface between the concrete, the body of the concrete, and the inner surface of the mold. As close to perfect a cast as I can. This sculpture is small enough that it's very easy. I don't have to make it hollow. I just basically dump concrete into mold. That's the technique. It's very easy. I don't have to like worry about the thickness of the interface and all that. Oh, thanks. I've been compared to Bob Ross. My life, my life, my my bucket list item has come true. Yeah, I used to watch Bob Ross when I was a reporter for Associated Press. I used to work in like Spain, Thailand, and Japan, and I burnt out after about 5 years. But boy, that was exciting, and I loved it. But it was so stressful. I needed Bob Ross on Saturday mornings, wherever country I was in. I found if I looked hard enough, I could find Bob Ross. I'm talking about the early '90s. There was no internet. There were no cell phones. There was no internet or cell phones yet. in 1991, 92, 93, 94, even 95. It was, well, by 95 there was email. So yeah, Bob Ross kept me sane. Okay. But what I like about Bob Ross is not that phrase everybody comes up with is happy little trees. That wasn't the key to Bob Ross for me. What I liked about Bob Ross was when he would go, he would make a paintbrush, a stroke, or he would do something and then he would say, there. That was it, right there. There. Okay, let's get this wire in there just right. This is to make it hang flush against the wall. There. Okay, no, don't touch. If you agitate the concrete at this point, it'll turn more fluid, and that copper wire will just sink right in. If I tap this, that will sink. It's really mysterious. I think Bob Ross knew. I don't know. Although his TV crew must have had a lot of stress when he would like slap his brushes around and make turpentine fly all around. A mist of turpentine fly around in the TV studio with these $80,000 TV cameras all around him. They didn't like that. Okay. Next, I got to clean these off. This concrete is getting solidified. So let me get a quick plan for what to do with that extra concrete. Wash these off and do what I got to do. Okay, here. This is a little baby face. This mold is this face. So set that there. When that's hard enough but still soft, I'm going to make a little dent in it. But I better get moving before that solidifies too much. Okay, got three things going on right now. I'm shaking this to reliquefy the concrete around the wire so I can reposition it. And I just make my little dent. Gotta do it without poking a hole in the sculpture. Okay. There, now with the wire positioned like that, this sculpture will be able to hang flush against the wall. It won't stick out. You can use just a little deck screw, and this indentation won't allow you to hang it flush. With just a little nail head or something. Okay, I gotta wash this stuff. And then this concrete here is gonna go into there, but I gotta do some washing first. Okay, so keep the video turned on, but if you want, open up another tab and check out ClayBraven.etsy.com. That's my shop. I'll be back in 30 seconds after I wash this. Okay, back again, and let me just check everything. Okay. Oh, that's good. I need a wire for this. I'm going to cast in this mold. I'm going to cast my leftover concrete, leftover concrete into this mold. Let me get this out of here. My leftover concrete, I'm going to cast it into this mold, which makes this little baby face. Kind of cute. And it has I always put a copper wire in the back for hanging. So I don't know if anybody can hear this, but I have a question. I can sell stuff at art galleries and at farmers markets and stuff like that, but I have never sold anything at Whatnot. And I think the reason is it's sort of like everybody wants something for $1 or like a real bargain, and my prices are like 60, 80, $120. Do you think that's it? Like prices are just too high? I'm not going to lower them, but but I'm just curious at Whatnot, given your experience. Feel free to just type a comment if you have an answer for me. It's not like I'm going to use the information, but I'm just curious. Oh, in the early summer, I did I did quite a few auctions. I even set up a camera at my farmer's market tent, inside the tent, showing me, talking to customers and stuff. And I held little auctions. So, I would hold a couple of dozen auctions in a day. And nothing ever sold, which is fine. I was just trying it out. I think if I started off at like 1 cent, I would get some action going, but then I would sell these things for $10, and it's just not worth it. I need, because I put like an hour's work into each one over a period of several days. So yeah, you're right. I got to get what they're worth. So I just for in pricing my sculptures, it's also very intuitive. I don't do a serious market research and all that because I have such a small volume. I go by a very intuitive, rough estimate of how much work I'm putting into it and about how much income I need as a dad with a mortgage and two daughters in college. So basically, I need infinite money. There. Now I want to. Okay, look. If I put this into a narrow holder, the baby's face will be really narrow. If I put it into a holder that pushes on the top and the bottom, it makes a much chubbier face. So I want to put this into a container that's kind of like this. Let's see. About this? No, that's too extreme, I think. Well, maybe no. Let's do it. This is gonna be like a really wide baby's face. I bet it'll be cute. Let's just give it a shot. Yeah, you're right. I should add some of those refrigerator magnets to my shop. Yeah, some buy it now, and then some auction. Yeah, I should have both. I even have this little bit of leftover concrete, and I don't want to waste it. So I'm taking this little. This is a mold for a little sun and moon sculpture that I made many years ago, and this particular sun face is just really good for refrigerator magnets. So I have just enough concrete to make one. So let's do it. Gotta make sure it gets into every little crevice. There's no bubbles. I don't want bubbles that would turn into flaws and pits and pinholes in the sculpture. This one's pretty good. Just apropos of nothing, a little face on your refrigerator. It's kind of fun. Okay, there. See how it's all rough and uneven? I want a flat back so I can glue a magnet onto it. So when I agitate the concrete, it'll reliquefy and just flatten out like lava. Watch. So it's flattening and smoothing. There. Now, just, oh yeah, like Bob Ross said. There. Okay, I'm going to clear the decks here for a second before I get started on something else. While I got to do a little washing over at the garden hose just to clean this up before I start on. What do I have to cast next? I have to cast something next, but before I start on that, I'll be back in just a minute. And while I'm gone, it'll be like 2 minutes. Check out my Etsy shop, which is ClayBraven.etsy.com. And if you know, I'm not trying to make you buy anything, but just check it out. It's all my finished sculptures. Okay, now what do we want to cast next? Okay, I think I have to wrap it up for now. and I'll just be back again. I'm going to start scheduling shows so I don't just um, come on out of nowhere. But if you liked this show, I'm going to try to make more of them. Just hold on a second. Hi, I'm Braven. I'm the sculptor dude. And if you like this show, I'm going to make more of them, just kind of filming the work that I do here in my backyard sculpture studio. And, I'm a Bob Ross wannabe, so people can just ask questions and I'll try to explain what the heck I'm doing. And I'll find out if anybody's interested in this stuff. I certainly am. It's got a lot of depth to it. So I'm going to turn the camera around and just scan over some of my sculptures and say goodbye. Thank you. Hi, Crack the Ripper. Yeah, I cast big ones like this moon lady right here in two pieces. I have a two-piece mold, and I'll show it to you. There's the sculpture. Let's look at one that has more light on it. There's the sculpture, and you can see the seam that I'm trying to repair. See that seam going all the way down here? It looks ugly, but to me, this is a very easy to fix seam. It just takes time. Oh, here we go. Sorry. There's that seam. A little epoxy putty. I'm working on it with epoxy putty. And sometimes I pour concrete into the bottom of the mold and let it flow out and then just trim it off. So there's the sculpture. And then I'm going to show you the mold next. Okay, here's the mold. It's extremely ungainly. They call this a mother mold, but it's kind of like just a hard shell. Yeah, it comes off. And then this is the back half of the mold. I'm not holding the phone very well, but you can see how that works. Then here's the front half. Check this out. Here's the front half of the mold and the face. It looks very spooky. And the rubber I use is just Smooth On brand hobby rubber that you can buy at Amazon. And I do cast it in two parts. I start by casting the front half, and then I let that get rigid and let it rest in the mold. Then I cast the back half, and I let it get leather hard, so it's still flexible, but it's not so rigid that it will crack if it bends. Then I lay the rigid front half onto the back half. Then I put the rigid shell around the mold, and then I flip it over. So the back half that's still flexible will settle onto the front half and minimize the seam. Then once that's rigid, the two sides are not adhering to each other very well. So I turn it upside down in the rigid mold and dump fluid concrete into it and swirl it around, and then dump all that out. So it's hollow but fused together. Then I take the mold off and just try to do what I can to fix the seams. And when it works, it works. When it doesn't, I get muscle strain. It's a catastrophe, and I get holes in the sculpture like this. So it's going to be a hassle to repair, but slightly less of a hassle than casting a whole new sculpture. So I'm not going to throw it away. I'm going to keep it. And that's that. Yeah, I make all my molds myself. Yeah, I'll show you my molds. Here we go. These are my molds. Only I know where everything is. This is my classification system. Whatever I've used most recently is on top. Here's some more molds. Yeah, so I make all my molds myself, just using hobby rubber you can get at Amazon. I usually use Smooth On brand, not necessarily because it's the absolute best, but just because it's what I know, what I'm familiar with, and what I'm pretty sure will always be reliable. So that's what I use. Okay, see you later. Over and out. This has been Braven. I'll try to do another. I'm gonna try to do more of these videos because they're fun. It's just that when I get really busy, the last thing I want to do is set up my phone and start videoing. But it's so much fun when I do. I'm going to try it again. Now, let me just figure out how to turn this off and say goodbye. Okay, see you guys later. End show.